Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And my God, Dragon, we're a little late, but it's better late than never. We're here to talk about How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, the third and hopefully final installment, because I just feel like this film really sticks to landing in a lot of ways. Dragon, I want to address something that right up top that I'm going to use as my thesis statement for this movie. If you don't mind me diving right into my thesis, all right?
Okay.
So I was watching the sibling rivalries that Doug and Rob Walker do, and they said, like, yeah, this movie's it's not perfect. There's definitely a lot of things that, there's small problems with it throughout. But I feel like it's so satisfying, and it's done and achieved in such a good way, and it really flows together so well that those small mishaps, those small little the plot holes or the humor that doesn't quite work or what have you that we'll get into, it really just doesn't matter. It just kind of falls by the wayside. And Dragon, I gotta say, like, as time goes by, the more and more I'm astonished by this franchise, man. I really do think that this is one of the greatest animated trilogies this side of Toy Story. I truly mean that. I feel like this is like perhaps the 2010s Toy Story in many regards, because the characters in this franchise have just kind of like grown so much, and really it's just like it's an accomplishment in storytelling, Dragon. I and the world building and the animation, like the animation in particular, I'm gushing, man. Like I said, it's not a perfect movie, but I think as a whole, the franchise in general, the trilogy, is just near flawless. It's so rock solid in the quality it exhibits.
Yeah. For me, I guess my overall thesis is that Hidden World, it's an excellent end to a very solid trilogy. It feels it feels very complete. It feels very it feels complete. It honors the characters that we've been tracking for three films plus at this point. Three films and a few TV series. It tells. It honestly just that kind of gild the lily a little bit. It told a story I would have basically told the story I wanted to see, and with a great villain, it kind of fulfilled my villain expectations. So I kind of got what I wanted already, and then the whole thing was consistent with like the quality of the first two. So I was very happy with that. And again, I think the best comparison I have is that overall it's like DreamWorks' Avatar: Last Airbender franchise. That's like the animated show. It's very much the animated Avatar franchise, but in kind of a feature film format for DreamWorks. That's really what the How to Train Dragons kind of franchise as a whole feels like. It just feels like something of that quality that's taken. It has comedy in it. It has something for everybody. It has something everyone can kind of like check out. But at the same token, again, it's playing it straight and just kind of letting it lie where it lies, and that can be fun. That can be a little scary at times. That can be really adventurous and cool and heartwarming, and for everybody. And that's they're playing to the strengths there. I guess in response to the people having some issues with it, by all means, and I'll say that it's I echo Tiki sentiments for the most part. I think the better comparison would be it's kind of like Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi is again it rounds out that original trilogy wonderfully, and that covers the beats. But of course, you have moments like Ewoks and stuff, but does it really matter? Does anyone care about the fact that
Yes, people care about the Ewoks.
But to me, look, at least for me, I don't care about the Ewoks. Ewoks, okay, they couldn't afford Wookiees. It's fine. Fine, it's Ewoks. Who cares? But, the point being, it's... I don't know if I go Toy Story 3 with it, but I would go, and that's it's as strong as a franchise as again, it's the closest thing DreamWorks has to a Toy Story franchise in terms of, like, it's just universally beloved, and there's nothing really wrong with this, with these series of films in this universe, and there's just something really just kind of electric and just kind of just universally positive about it, and I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
A solid ending is basically the two like the one word version of what I'm getting right here. It's solid.
Dragon, before we get into the background, I have to address one thing, all right?
Yeah.
I really feel like the rollout for this movie was just bonkers.
How so?
I don't know, man. It's just like I felt like it was just very odd that that Australia got this movie almost 2 months in advance from us. And then on top of that, we had advanced screenings, but only a very, very limited amount of theaters. And Dragon, you and I both missed out on that. But on the same hand, two people from the channel, Jacob and Monkey, they got to see it. So that put us in this really weird position, for some of the for talking about the movie and when exactly to cover it. And I don't know. It's just like for me personally it doesn't affect the movie's quality at all, obviously. But I feel like it's just one of those things where the DreamWorks like maybe shot themselves a little bit because by the time the actual release got around, the hype and a lot of the people that really wanted to see the movie had already seen it. I don't know, like to me, it seemed like a little bit unnecessary. It seemed like a kind of like an unnecessarily convoluted rollout strategy.
I have a theory as to why that is. Now, I can't substantiate this, but my personal theory on like why on earth they would kind of roll it out like that is this. I think you got to remember, and we'll get into this in the background momentarily, but of course, DreamWorks they were going through a really tough time, as a company as a whole, while they were making this movie, and of course, that's why there was such kind of there was a long gap in between movies. So originally, they were supposed to roll this out in 2016. It was that far back. This movie was supposed to come out. And I feel it was just like so much time's passed, and of course, and the company has kind of gone through that transition where now they're kind of partnered with, with Comcast, Universal. They're doing that. I think they were afraid that because that's the thing. It's always been kind of some of DreamWorks' most successful, awesome franchises are films that again are films before their products. Where you have How to Train Your Dragon just being again kind of like the Avatar: Last Airbender situation, where you even look at it by Nickelodeon comparison, it's that these shows are beloved by its fans. And again, like, so you could show someone this and it'd be something of like high caliber animation and storytelling at its finest in the in the era that you're watching it in. But at the same time, is it selling toys? Is it commercial? Is it something that's going to like someone sees like a trailer, let alone for the third installment of this franchise, then people come in fresh to it. Are they going to seek it out? So I think they were worried about. It's been like 3 years. People might have forgotten about this. And again, we don't want to hedge our bets. So let's just make sure we want to make sure people see, and we make like a special thing, like, hey guys, you can see this movie early, before it's even supposed to come out. So I think they were just trying to sell it extra hard, and in doing so, in doing so, they might have done a little bit of damage. But again, I think it's something for the people like the movies before it's someone who's just kind of coming into it fresh. And I think that's kind of what they ended up kind of fitting into, and maybe it worked against them. But I guess it fell where it fell. So
All right, fair enough.
all right. Okay. Before we go any further, I just want to call out Donovan Martin in the comments here. A lot of excellent points that he's making, like Toy Story passed the torch in 2010 since the third one.
Yeah,
And the
exactly.
first How to Train Your Dragon came out in the same year. So again, that's a very agreeable
Dragon
point.
2010 was such a good year for movies.
It was.
Look at that for a second.
Sure. Because we're going to get into a little bit of legacy because it's the end of a trilogy. And of
Yeah,
course, the How to Train Your Dragon evolves. It's kind of like a goodbye
and
party.
I'm not talking animated movies I'm talking movies in general. 2010 was amazing. So 2010 we had Toy Story 3, we had How to Train Your Dragon, we had one of my favorite movies of all time, The Social Network.
And my favorite DreamWorks movie with Megamind.
Yes, we had Scott Pilgrim versus the World. We had my second favorite Nolan movie after Dunkirk, Inception.
Yep, you have. Let's see. Well, again, except maybe not everyone
The
likes it,
best
but
James Franco performance of all time, which is 127 hours.
you have Despicable Me, which whether you love it or not, it definitely it was a big thing.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's others. I'm sure there's others. And then of course, Dragon, that was a year where it's like literally if you want to talk about Oscars, we're getting off track here, but if you want to talk about Oscars, 2010's Oscars were such a sham because literally any other nominee that year deserved to win more than The King's Speech.
Yeah, I agree. It's just I don't know. It's kind of apples and oranges in that one, but sure.
All right, but seriously, 2010, good year. Good year.
Yeah, it was. It was. Okay, also, a little factoid here. We got Don Martin saying that Hidden World was the biggest February opening ever. That's cool. And 2010 was, Rob. You're absolutely right, Donovan. Yes. All right. So I guess all that said, you wanna jump into the background?
Yeah. Sorry, let's do it.
Okay, so again, a little bit of legacy in this, so forgive me if I'm just kind of spelling out things that people already know. But How to Train Your Dragon, of course, it's in the first place, it's based off of a book series. It's inspired by a book series by um, I always want to say Cressidia, but it's not Cressidia. Cressid Cowell. Cressid Cowell. She wrote this. She wrote a book series, of course, How to Train Your Dragon, which I believe went for at least 12 or more books. I'm pretty sure it's 12, but like 12 volumes of a book series called How to Train Your Dragon. Similar premise, but a little different in how it's kind of executed. We have very different design on basically uh, the small dragons from the first movie. They were kind of what Toothless was originally envisioned to be, the kind of like a backpack-sized dragon, essentially. Anyway, so they have this book series, and DreamWorks they buy the book rights to it, and right from the get go, there is kind of a trilogy and a franchise in mind, but it all falls on like how well the first film does. There's kind of like a lax, like yeah, we could definitely do more. We'd like to do a trilogy because Katzenberg is power mad for trilogies, and not even trilogies. The man wants like double trilogies. The man wanted 6 Kung Fu Panda movies, but that's how that goes. Regardless, so DreamWorks they get the book rights to How to Train Your Dragon in the first place since 2004, I believe. So they do Over the Hedge, which I believe has a again they're kind of taking a book series and it's like, oh yeah, let's do more of this. So
Over the Hedge comic, not a book.
Well, you know what I'm sure.
I'm sorry, I really like the Over the Hedge movies, so I just wanted
to. Sure. Okay, point being, they're kind of getting more to adapted work, and it's something that they can kind of build over. Yeah, you look in the essence of DreamWorks, you have Shrek, which is loosely based on a book in itself. So again, they've been kind of getting back into the fray with this in 2004, and bear in mind, 2003 and 4 for them was kind of a rough year to say the least. Before Shrek 2 comes out, of course, but I'm saying like have like Shark Tale following that and stuff, and oh god, it was Anyway. So you have the book rights.
If I remember correctly, Shark Tale was at the very least a financial success for them.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
Huh. Well, yeah, it was everywhere. So
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like it's one of those like kind of like Michael Bay Transformers situations where everyone knew it was a bad movie, and for some reason everyone went to go see it anyways.
I'm going to strike my 2004 comic because then remembering all these other at least decent or profitable DreamWorks movies that did come out, because I think Madagascar came out in 2004. So strike that from the record.
Madagascar was 2005.
Okay, well I don't know. Let's just strike it all just to be on the safe side. Regardless.
All right.
So the point is, the book they get the book rights in 2004, and while this is going on, Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois. I've been saying it wrong for all these years. I keep saying Dubois because you look at it like you blink and you see Dubois. It was like, no, it's not Dubois, it's DeBlois. How stupid I was. Anyway, so Chris Sanders, he gets kicked off of Bolt. So he's doing Bolt and has a very different creative direction he wants to go with Bolt. Essentially, he's kind of trying to recycle the original concept for Lilo and Stitch. That's what Bolt was originally supposed to be. So he gets kicked off the project, and he's now a free agent. So he goes to so he basically goes to DreamWorks and he gets his buddy from Lilo and Stitch, Dean DeBlois. They work together so well on that. The two of them are kind of snatched up by DreamWorks, and they're thrown into this project that has been in the works. So here's the thing. So How to Train Your Dragon, the original movie, was in the works. However, our two guys, the two guys that kind of shaped what that movie became, like all the hallmarks of How to Train Your Dragon, as you see it, they had 14 months to make that movie a reality. How crazy is that? Basically, so like they have the cast, they have I want to say they have everything but the actual animation done for the movie. I believe essentially they have 14 months to animate the movie, which is crazy. It's a little over a year. I mean, that in itself is like something you don't see every day. I know, like, it's like in the works, but still, that's So again, like they're in the thick of it. They're not really thinking like like franchises and sequels and everything. But look, we could run with this, but let's focus on making a good first movie, and we could definitely have places to go. And while the first one's kind of being spit and polished, they're working on the script for the next one, et cetera, et cetera. And and Dean DeBlois kind of takes the reins for the next two movies, and essentially he made the deal. And this is where I'm getting with all this. Dean DeBlois is a smart man in that he made a deal that he'll only do a trilogy on the condition that they secure a trilogy. I want to make a second movie so long as I get to make a third movie and end this. Very smart move. And of course, got the okay because How to Train Your Dragons was very successful. So, and the cool thing, the thing I keep geeking out most about this movie one of the things I really like about the movie. I mean, there's a visual I keep kind of drooling over in the movie. It's like, oh my god, I love this visual and the story that's conveyed in this visual. But aside from that, I love the payoff of. There's actually a clue that they want to do a trilogy from the start because we have Hiccup's narration at the start of each movie, and the narration is kind of in the past tense of like Hiccup telling us something that has happened already. So it's technically it's older Hiccup giving us the narration the whole time.
Dragon, I remember when we did How to Train Your Dragon 2 way back in the day. We made a lot of speculation about that I feel kind of came to fruition with the Hidden World. I think that's really neat.
Absolutely.
It just kind of goes like full circle with our podcasting in a way, because I believe 2014 was like one of the first years that you and I were even working together. So we've been with this franchise for quite a while.
Oh yeah, you better believe it. So anyway, so the point is, so again, the narration's kind of built in there for like, okay, we're going somewhere with this. And you're right, we kind of called it. So again, they're working on the third movie. So they're working on the third installment after 2 does tremendously well. The film is delayed, as I mentioned. It was supposed to come out in 2016, but it's delayed to 2019 because DreamWorks is changing hands and going through some rough times that requires somewhat of a bailout by kind of the new partnership with kind of Comcast DreamWorks, which I definitely noticed when I was in the theater watching. I remember I was like commenting in my boy like, oh yeah, that's because they switched things over. I guess they changed it. The credits, because he was saying, wait, the Universal basis? I told him like, no, it's it's the whole Universal Comcast deal. It's technically they're kind of affiliated with Illumination now. It's crazy.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah, and to address something that Donovan kind of posed in the comments earlier, I was going to get to this in the backstory, so I absolutely have to get to it now. So I remember geeking out in the commentary for How to Train Dragons 2 because Dean DeBlois kind of teased something for the third movie there. That Drago Bloodfist, he disappeared and they were ambiguous about what happened to him, and that we'd see the ending to that story in the third movie. So originally, Drago was supposed to have a payoff. He was supposed to come back, have an arc, most likely a redemptive arc, I guess. He'll probably come around to Hiccup's way of thinking. But the point is, so they were going to work Drago into the movie, but they nixed this while they're kind of breaking the story, and you'll never guess why they nixed this, Tiki.
Why, Dragon? Why?
So they're talking to Spielberg. Of course, Steven Spielberg definitely has a stake in the company. So Spielberg, Spielberg's involved, and he's
well, I am the S after all.
God. So Spielberg had a really smart.
My letter turns into the Shrek logo.
Right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The point being, Spielberg had this really solid suggestion to Dean DeBlois when they were kind of breaking the story, kind of, I guess, going over the production reel or something, going over like the story reel. Spielberg suggested that, look, you have a lot of story here, and you're dedicating too much focus to Drago Bloodfist. This is good stuff, but you want to dedicate it's going to take away focus from your main story, which, again, sounds like good advice. And lastly, I kind of found this out because this is confirmed because he was driving you and I both nuts when we did our non-spoiler thing. So here's what happened.
Oh yes, Dragon. I want to. This is the moment where you get to tell the audience that Tiki was right.
So Tiki was right, and it was unclear what they wanted. So basically, I'll tell you what happened. Okay, so T.J. Miller was actually recast for the film. He was recast for the film. we can confirm this because they had like brought in a different actor and everything. It's the credit on the movie. You know, you're so stupefied by it. Again, I kept trying. Like basically, I was trying to see TJ if TJ Miller's name popped up in the end credits when I was watching the movie, and then like my buddies like or like kind of geeking out about the movie, and I was distracted by it for a moment because we're seeing if there's a post credit scene, even though I should have known there's not going to be a post credit scene. Doesn't matter. The point being, T.J. Miller was recast, but originally he did record all of his lines, and of course things happened with T.J. Miller, so they had the studio wanted to recast him. But here's my theory, Tiki. I think they snuck him in the movie.
Oh no! Oh no!
I really do, because there are a few lines, especially in the beginning of the movie, a few lines. Those are T.J. Miller lines. It's either the actor doing a ridiculously good job, but that's the thing. You yourself said there are lines that sound like, nah, it sounded like the T.J. Miller, and I think you're right about that. And that's the thing that drove me crazy. Where, wait a minute, how can it be if it's not that? I was thinking like the actor from the TV show, but the actor from the TV show was T.J. Miller. What's going on? So the point being, you and I have to look up at some point. We got to find out if Fred from Big Hero 6 did the voice of Tough Nut here.
Okay.
Anyway, so point being, he was recast, but I think some lines, especially towards the start of it, sound like they worked in a few lines, hoping that the studio wouldn't notice. And I think they got away with it, but that's just my random theory there. All right, so movie comes out. Everybody loves it. I'm just going to check the comments here, see if there's anything I'm missing, something maybe we've been educated to. Just 1 second.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Donovan begs us not to remind him of Shark Tale. So sorry for the PTSD over Will Smith fish. My deepest apologies, sir.
Well, you know what's funny is that I feel like Will Smith Genie is going to replace Will Smith Fish as the most terrifying Will Smith thing in existence.
It's a funny world we live in. It really is. All right, let's see. Donovan praised the God that Illumination doesn't remake this franchise like speculatively they're planning to with Shrek. You know, like if Shrek's gonna be a remake or not, which possibly it will because they're getting a new director on. Last time I checked, there's a remake, but again, I can't verify that.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like Illumination Shrek, like Dragon, as you know, I do have a soft spot for the Grinch. And, you know, what can I say? Maybe another green anti-hero with a heart of gold could do wonders for Illumination, especially when it's the big all-star himself. Who knows? I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic about Illumination Shrek, I gotta say.
We'll see what happens. But also, Donovan, Don made the excellent point that I want to echo that he tried to tell us that he was recast, and yeah, we're very sorry, Don. You were right on that one.
Yeah, there was chaos in the comments that night.
Yeah, because again, we weren't sure, and then of course it's like, well, can we verify this? Because he sounds like T.J. Miller, and basically I think it sounds like Donovan's kind of in agreement with my theory here that again, the first part does sound a lot like T.J. Miller, and possibly then they get the guy they recast following that. So either they sprinkle him throughout or sprinkle him in the opening. So it sounds like we're simpatico, hopefully. All right. So let's talk. We're going to kind of go through some talking points here, folks. Not going to recap the entire film. Believe me, we could, but we're not. We're going to kind of we're going to broach some big old talking points here. So let's start with the kind of the overall status quo of things. So basically, where we kind of start the movie. So the movie starts a year later. It would have been trippy if it was like 3 years since the. 3 years since How to Train Your Dragon, because it would have been reflective and appropriate. But no, in all seriousness, like a year has passed. And also, I probably should mention this too again with the legacy, but all is that yes, of course, Netflix and originally Cartoon Network, but then Netflix they did How to Train Your Dragon's animated show that basically bridges the gap between season for the first movie and the second movie. It directly leads into the second movie with the beginning of the second movie. So that's cool. And honestly, that's the only other thing I could really speculate with How to Train Your Dragons, by the way. Like the only way I can imagine revisiting that story is, and again, you don't really need it at all, but you could bridge the gap of that 1 year of story. You know? Mm-hmm. That's all I could really see on Netflix. And essentially they got 6 seasons out of 5 years. So again, they show you what happens within the 5 years between the first one the second one. So I don't know. It's
So it's kind of like it's almost like the How to Train Your Dragon's Clone Wars in a way.
if you want to be technical, because again, you have those 2 seasons outside of the Netflix show, so technically it's 6, 7, it's 8 seasons. I got 8 seasons out of it, man. And here's the thing: they're all good seasons. I mean, the Netflix seasons where it really got better, and basically, they get a little more ambitious story wise, and they introduce Alfred Molina plays the bad guy. Oh my God, Alfred Molina is so good in that show. But anyway, getting back to this. So again, the point is that's kind of the How to Train Your Dragon stuff we've had in the middle of things. So again, a year has passed, and so we didn't miss anything. If anyone's questioning the TV show, we haven't missed anything between 2 and 3 is the main reason I bring that up. So a year has passed, and we're checking in with our guys here. So a year has passed, and we have Burke's facing some issues. Like one of my favorite. I was teasing this up a little bit earlier. I'm going to hand it back to you, T, because I'm talking too much about it. But let me tell you this. I love the my favorite shot in the whole movie. Quite possibly is the shot of Hiccup looking at an overpopulated Burke. I love that it's like a Burke full of dragons, like flying in shadow and silhouette. I think it's a beautiful shot. It's a shot that's it's like a perfect shot that kind of encapsulates where we are in the third movie versus the first film, where they're welcome to Burke, but now there's a problem. It's a very obvious visual problem that, okay, well, what do we do now? It's the now what shot, man. I love the now what shot.
Yeah, absolutely, Dragon. And aside from the shot itself, I freaking love the segment because it introduces all these concepts about like how the dragons are coexisting with each other, and just kind of the day-to-day grind of it all, and how it's pretty far from being a utopia at this point. And it's just a great little beat of storytelling. But speaking of a great little beat of storytelling, Dragon, I freaking love the cold open to this movie.
Yes, the cold open is amazing.
So badass.
Now, okay, let me tell you this. Okay, real quick, I love that they have they kind of celebrated David Tennant. Because here's the thing: throughout the whole franchise, I mean throughout the whole franchise, TV shows and everything, the movies. Snotlout's dad is voiced by David Tennant. Therefore, David Tennant has been involved in the How to Train Your Dragon stuff. And they also gave David Tennant a secondary character. He's the dumb henchman that they go up against. That goes up against them. That's David Tennant, the one panicking and kind of spilling his guts about the trappers. But yeah, it's a great entrance. Like they're like a SWAT team kind of swooping in. You see them all together. And again, that's the kind of the benefit of the show too. You get to see them work up to that point. So like, yeah, these guys know what they're doing now. Especially that year in between, like they really know what they're doing now. And it's a great foreshadow for the third act too, like them all working in tandem, kind of crashing one boat. And again, it doesn't go off without a hitch, but later on, it goes off in the heat of things. Like, can they pull it together? And of course, they do. So it's wonderful. Yeah. So
Dragon, one of the things I want to address about the world building here. And this, my God, the animation, just the detail, the movement, just the particle effects. I mean, it's just like we are talking. Honest to God, Dragon, I feel like this thing deserves a Kubo nod, like a best visual effects, because it's that good. It's like the graphics here, man, dem graphics.
I'd give them. I'd give them Incredibles points. Where Incredibles was the computer animated film that kind of ventured us into uncharted territory in computer animation with effects and like hair that's wet, introducing hair that's wet and everything. I think How to Train Your Dragon is to me this is big praise. I think it's for an animated film to do that, reinvent the wheel, and like you always have the old adage of computer animation's hard, and it is. But to really do that and really sell that, like, oh my God, these guys are reinventing the wheel that's been reinvented. They're reinventing the newer, better wheel.
Dragon, I mean, I'm talking like this is like it's almost a similar thing to what Disney was trying to do with that weird dinosaur movie back in the day, which was to create an environment that was almost photorealistic, but still kind of had the the cartoony Disney like charm to it. Right. And I love all the scale effects, and I don't know. I could just keep going on and on about the animation. Anyway.
Oh, but I hear it. We'll cover more of the animation a little bit later on. But again, I want to backtrack real quick because I mean, yes, the opening's spectacular, but I also back to that shot where Hiccup, just I love the story. Not beyond the shout, just when we have that introduction, when he's going around and Gobber's he's talking with Gobber, and I like Gobber as the chief advisor to the chief, kind of the role that he had with his father, And Gobber, I've always loved one. He's Craig Ferguson, of course. I've loved Craig Ferguson ever since Freakazoid. So he's Roddy McStew. So, that, and of course, Buzz Lightyear starring. Craig Ferguson rocks, man. I love it whenever he shows up. And I love that, we always had the built-in friendship, and like he was an apprentice to Gobber, and like, as the blacksmith, essentially. And I love that, he's advising, he's addressing the big story problem. A story problem in a good way, kind of the challenge that Hiccup has to face, where, again, it's the now what of it all, beyond that shot, where Hiccup's achieved the unthinkable. He's blended dragons into Viking culture, but can it last? And now that Berk is the ever-growing beacon of like, welcome to man and dragon alike. Like all dragons will be safe here on Berk. And of course, in kind of making Berk a beacon, you risk overcrowding. And now it's completely overcrowding. And not only that, it invites challenge. It invites challenge to all the dragons, at least all various types of dragons, like domesticated dragons, are all in one place. Which essentially the issue that Hiccup is dealing with as a chief is he's entertaining a perpetual state of war where you have a commodity everyone wants and that everyone has the potential of getting, especially if people are ruthless. You can change the dragons, but you can't change the people. So it's a no-win situation that Hiccup has to deal with here, and I really think that was a really excellent kind of place for the story-wise. I think it's my favorite thing story-wise in the entire film. So I love just kind of checking in with them a year later and giving a really great, compelling story to tell, like 3 years since the last one.
Yeah, and of course the characters have all matured just a little bit. It's not quite as big of a leap as the first film to the second film, but it's very appropriate. I feel like it's all very lived in and naturalistic as we go along.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's see. But yeah, I'm sorry. I wanted to compliment your point there of our characters have grown. I mean, I like that Hiccup. He's dealing with his chiefly responsibilities, like selling the people on the plan. Of course, the main plan of the movie being we got to Berk essentially gets invaded, and we got to get everyone out of Dodge. We got to kind of move everyone to a new Berk, if you will. We got to go to New Berk. We got to find a new Berk, and I kind of got to go island hopping for that, which again is a very chiefly move that I think his father would be proud of him for making. Like, okay, guys, we got to move, and then he faces the issue of basically. I love the fact that he faces the issue, guys. We got to keep moving, but everyone wants to make camp and stay because people are lazy, and inherently people want the easy solution before they want the long game. They want this place seems safe. It seems kind of nice. Why don't we make this new Berk? And Hiccup has to deal with this, where it's like, it's like I love the little intricacies of it's not an easy job being chief. And basically Hiccup through. I mean, the last thing I really before I just keep Hiccup this, Hiccup that is I love that it's basically a question of his own dream. It's like pursuing his own dream versus it's the duty of achieving his dream with the dragons versus looking out for the security of his people. And that's kind of like it's the dream of like intermingling them and changing the world versus like you got to look out for your people first and foremost and what their needs are. And again, that kind of gets us to eventually some other big stuff, other realizations, other arcs within the movie. So we'll kind of save a little bit more of that for later. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, let's start with one of the most exciting elements of the movie. Let's talk about our villain.
Yeah, Dragon. I here's the thing. I feel like you're a little bit more pumped on him than I am. I do like him quite a bit, but I feel like he's sort of an amalgamation of a bunch of different kind of villain tropes that all work together to form the character. I'm not gonna say he's like in league with some of the better Disney villains we've had or anything like that. He's serviceable, and he's definitely the best villain that we've gotten in the franchise so far. And I'll give him that much. He's definitely more memorable than the villain in How to Train Your Dragon 2. But I don't know. I'm not as over the moon about him as you are. But it's subjective and everything. I did like him a fair bit.
Yeah, look, I'll admit there is a bit of self-interest because again, I wanted this type of villain. And the next one, I kind of got my wish, so a lot of it has to do with that. But I mean, beyond that, though, I think he's still pretty solid. And you're right, look, I'm not. He's not reinventing the wheel with villains, but he's. Let me put it to you this way: no, he's not going to stand shoulder to shoulder with any iconic Disney villain, but I feel he's a great villain that I think is kind of in the tradition of he kind of amalgams like the best of from the How to Train Your Dragon villains in the franchise. Where I mean, one you have a shades of Drago Bloodfist, but you also have again the Alfred Molina bad guy from the series with Vigo Grimborn. You have those two types of villains, basically kind of again kind of a in essence kind of a Drago Bloodfist, like a guy who's using dragons to do things and kind of the whole dominance alpha thing, like all that. And you have a kind of a calculating, smart guy like Vigo Grimborn. So that's the element I like about it. So it's kind of taking a Vigo Grimborn like character, but putting him on the big screen and giving him these moments that kind of like again they slightly reinvent the villain wheel. Like these are things that we don't see all the time with villains that I really liked. Again, not getting into the iconic status, but really good stuff. Like let me put it this way, let's break him down a little bit. So
All
F. Murray
right.
Abraham, great voice for him, I thought.
Now, Dragon, where have I heard this guy before? Because I know his voice sounds familiar.
Well, I
Please.
got two prime examples you're gonna
All
know.
right.
Okay, Grand Budapest Hotel. He's the older version of God,
Oh yeah. Right. Okay.
what's the kid's name? What's the kid's name in Grand Budapest? Do you remember?
Zero.
It is Zero. Oh my gosh, I was thinking Zero was
Yeah.
wrong because I kept thinking of Hector Zeroni for some reason. I was like, no, I can't possibly be it.
Hector Zeroni.
Yes, because I'm thinking like Zero. No, it can't be Zero. You fool! You're thinking of Hector Zeroni for some reason. Why are you? But
Oh,
no,
that's a
no, no.
deep. That's a deep pool, Dragon. That's a deep pool.
Anyway, so but there's that, and of course there's the Noah's Ark segment of Muppets from Space where Gonzo has the dream sequence. He's the Noah of Noah's Ark in that.
Oh, okay. Right. Gotcha.
Anyway, so F. Murray Abraham, I think he does a good job doing the voice. He's got in essence, he's what I want with the cold and calculating thing. He has a menace and a point to him. That's what I wanted in a villain. A guy with a menace, and that this guy means business. You do not want to be on the wrong side of this guy, but at the same time, he does have somewhat of a point to what he's doing. And again, it's kind of basically it's like Drago 2.0, where Drago also had a point, but by the same token, the guy was just kind of a conqueror. He was just like, I want to rule all the dragons. He wants to rule them. He wants to be the alpha, and basically, I guess the best way of phrasing and the cool thing about this guy is that Grimmel the Grizzly is essentially Craven the Hunter for How to Train Your Dragons. It's pretty much what he is, and that's kind of neat. Yeah, he's kind of a Craven the Hunter type.
Yeah, totally.
He's the ultimate
he's all
hunter.
into his prizes. He's all into his big game.
I mean, that's the cool thing about him. Like, he's this menacing guy. He's all about like he lives for the hunt, and slaying dragons. But again, he doesn't slay them like Vikings do for survival's sake. He does it for sport, and that's the thing that separates him. And again, he separates him, but he knows dominance. He knows kind of the stuff there. Like he knows how to. Again, he comes at a more calculating place, which I really loved. And again, with all of that stuff, with a guy who really knows his stuff, and basically someone who's learned as he's gone on, probably has had an evolution to his own. He's very much more than Drago. Drago was a little bit of this, but much more than Drago. He's more of a reflection of Hiccup, which again is the most compelling thing about this guy.
Sure.
Yeah, he's a parallel of Hiccup. Like if Hiccup killed Toothless in the first movie, he would have pleased his father. He would have gone down the path of becoming an increasingly clever. Because we know Hiccup's a smart guy. He would have become like a strategist, like an inventor, a strategist. Probably would have invented a whole bunch of dragon traps or things that might have killed him. He could have gone down the path of this guy again to please his father. And again, we have one of my favorite things in the movie is we have this moment where one of my favorite scenes between Grimmel and Hiccup is the scene. You know what scene I'm talking about. They're in the dark room, and basically Hiccup said, it's supposed to be like a surprise thing where like, oh boy, there's a Grimmel's waiting for Hiccup with a crossbow trained on him. And he's going to have this really great, pleasant conversation with him. And he mentions that he knew his father, and his father was also a great dragon slayer, and he knew him from those days. And it's like, again, I like the reputation of Stoic the Vast, and how much of a disappointment you'd be. But, all that. is great. And then of course we have the switcher where Hiccup anticipated this guy, and they go to capture him. It's a phenomenal sequence. That's one of the sequences that kind of puts this above a lot of other DreamWorks movies. Like, yes, this movie gets it. This movie has tight knit writing. I love it.
Okay.
So yeah, there's I think there's a lot of great stuff with this guy. We could spend all day talking about it, but let's but obviously say Donovan Martin has some stuff to contribute. I just want to read some of that out.
Mm-hmm.
He likes Grimmel, and he would say that he's better than Drago. Again, agreed on that front.
Yeah, definitely better than Drago for sure.
Yep, and he loved the parallel, which is very underappreciated parallel. It seems. I think some people are. I think some people might be writing off the. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus or anything. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying some people have been like might have been underappreciating the bad guy, and just I don't know. It's like again, he's better than Drago is all I'm really saying there. I think the consensus would agree with that. So again, worked itself out. All right. Yeah, unless you got anything else to add, I guess we should move on then.
Yeah, I can take the lead on this next one.
Sure.
Okay, so the Light Fury. Dragon, this is one of those elements of the movie where you and I were both kind of skeptical about it when we saw it in the trailer. And again, kind of speaking to like the marketing and rollout of this movie, I was very fearful that a lot of this movie was going to be just Toothless trying to impress the girl Toothless and the comedy shenanigans that ensue from that. And that was going to be a major step down. Instead, Dragon, holy crap, the Light Fury, there's a good 2 or 3 significant moments with the Light Fury. Like, there's a dramatic scene, a beautiful scene, and a comedy scene. And those are the 3 that I want to highlight, all right? The comedy scene is the one on the beach. Speaking of the beach, my God, the sand, Dragon, the freaking sand.
Good sand. It's really good sand.
Harsh and it's coarse and it gets everywhere, but it looks gorgeous. But the beach scene is just a wonderful, just almost like Chaplin-esque bout of physical comedy. And what's great about it is I love how the animators just really went buck wild with Toothless's design and how to push it and how to morph it into these different things. It kind of reminds me of what Disney's been able to do with their horse characters.
Yeah. Yeah, I
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, the Light Fury, it could have, like, you and I we were very afraid going in the movie that it basically could have been like a 2-movie situation where, oh no, it's the last installment. They want to tell 2 movies where one's the love story and the other one's kind of the big, like, a guy's coming to kill the dragons. It's like, oh no. But what they did is they did really smart. They made a really smart story decision that really sold me on it. Where it's played first and foremost as it's paid first and foremost as a payoff to Toothless not being alone. So it's not coming out of nowhere. It's not just like another. That's where it's coming from in the first place. Okay, that's why we're doing a Light Fury. But the plot reason that I like is that there's a reason to it. That there's a relevancy to. This Night Fury is being used as really clever bait by Grimmel. Grimmel, the idea with Grimmel, another cool thing about him is that Grimmel, at least the idea I got from the movie, and I believe what they say in a line of dialogue, is that one of Grimmel's big claims to fame is that Grimmel killed all the other Night Furies. The guy's famous for killing Night Furies. Like, he's basically killed, if not all of them, he's killed a lot of them, and he saved one to bait the up. Most likely what he's done is like a modus operandi. Most likely is that he's killed the Night Furies and he's probably killed a lot of them using this one as bait. There's a chance that's happening, and we don't know that that's the thing we don't know for certain. Like, if he's used her as bait for all of them, at the very least, he's killed a bunch of Night Furies and he saved one to bait any new ones that come around. So that in itself is a terrifying idea, and that necessitates her to the plot. And I like that, again, she's not really a plot device, but she assists the plot. And I think that's really a great thing they did here. She eventually, over time, the Light Fury warms up to Hiccup, and you kind of bonds with Toothless again. All of the Night Furies, again, there's so few of them, they have to kind of figure out what a mating dance is. They kind of like Toothless is figuring out like how to do a mating dance, and then she interprets that, and Donovan's kind of making the point that kind of parallels a little bit of the Astrid Hiccup relationship, where they're kind of opposites. They kind of got together over time, and because they had a common interest, it's not off. But yes, I mean the Light Fury could have sunk the movie, but it didn't. Right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We just I was right in the middle of doing my moments with the Light Fury. So Dragon, the other two moments I want to talk about, the clouds, man, those clouds.
Yeah, the cloud and the cloud trick is tremendous.
Dragon, that was the moment in the theater where I literally just tears. That was a tears moment for me. I got to admit, the music, the animation, the characters, just the bold colors, just everything came together. It was just the sweeping moment of filmmaking for me. And that is the beautiful thing with the Light Fury. Now, the emotional thing with the Light Fury Dragon is kind of like this is like a Yoko Ono story done right.
Yeah, Tiki, I swear to God, I wrote Yoko in my notes too.
But it's not a bad Yoko though. It's like, what if Yoko Ono instead of being
Yoko without jealousy? It's pretty much
like horrible,
Basically, it's like Hiccup is like Yoko's coming in to ruin the whole Hiccup Toothless thing. It would seem, but again, she's not ruining. It's just it's like, what if you did Yoko without the jealousy? What if just like someone's coming in between the two, but no one's the bad guy?
Right, and I think that throughout that movie, Okay, here's the thing, Dragon. Here's the thing. I want to kind of make a point with this here. So basically, with How to Train Your Dragon, the whole franchise has been built on the theme of moving on, right? The first movie, it was moving on from past prejudice. The second, moving on is loss, and I movie, it's on from letting personal things go. You know what I mean? Like moving, like moving into a different, like physically. It's the most physical of the moving theme that How to Train Your Dragons employs. And I feel like that really sets in very well with the Light Fury. I feel like the Light Fury very much represents that kind of core dynamic of the franchise.
Right.
All right.
And your third moment?
My third moment was just generally speaking the whole sorry. It was less a moment. It was more just the I'm sorry. I got there. I don't remember what it was. My bad.
Let's see. Donovan has made an interesting point in the comments here I wanted to call out. Grimmel is smart, lying to Hiccup that he killed all the Night Furies, but has one to lure Toothless, the alpha of all dragons. Oh, okay. I get what he's saying there. That is really clever. Tiki, what he's saying is that I didn't think about this. Thank you, Donovan. This is an excellent point. Grimmel, in that scene, that intimate scene, say he killed Night Furies. And again, I still think he. Again, it could be a total lie, but I like to think that he actually killed most of them, but he left the one alive. But again, he's cloaking the fact that he has one that he can use as bait. Therefore, Hiccup would know nothing about this.
Mm-hmm.
Very clever.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And again, it's like we don't really. She should be the bad guy of the movie, but we feel so much sympathy for her. And I feel like that comes down to the animation, Dragon. The animation for I know that we're gonna get to the animation, in more detail, but the animation for Toothless and the Light Fury, both, it's like they're just like, okay, if these creatures existed in real life, this is absolutely what they would be like, how they would move, how would they breathe, how they would react. I love that element to it.
I mean, the worst thing that she does just knocks Hiccup off Toothless for a gag. That's about it. That's about it. You know.
uh,
All right. Of course, just the effect of how she cloaks within the clouds and stuff is just oh god, it was a cool idea.
all right, Dragon. So is it time to be stoic? Stoic?
Yes, Tiki, it's time to be stoic. Stoic. Yeah, let's talk about the stoic flashbacks that are kind of woven throughout the film. Let's talk.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much there to really break down. I feel like they're just like they're a nice spice to the film. You know what I mean? They're there a to get Gerard Butler back because I feel like
Yeah,
I
I've been expecting this for the beginning. This was the first thing I thought of when they used it in that one trailer. The fact that it's like, yeah, we have reminders of Stoic, and of course this pays off Gerard Butler's contract for a trilogy. Therefore, they worked him in somehow. That's nice.
right. I don't know. It was just like I don't have a lot to say about him other than it was just kind of like a nice. It was a good way to splice in the exposition while really keeping the pace going. You know what I mean? And really adding to the pathos. It was like, okay, we're literally going to have scenes where we're spelling out what the hidden world is, but we're going to do it in a dramatic way where it's like, it kind of forces the audience to stop and pay attention because everyone remembers Stoic from How to Train Your Dragons too, and we want to see we want to see as much of that character because that character is it's almost like stumbling upon like home video footage that you didn't know existed of a loved one who died or something like that. You know what I mean, Dragon?
Right. Well, to me, I love it. Felt more. It felt less expositional. Felt more like kind of like tonal and kind of pathos filled. It's just kind of these great little flashes. The Stoic that again kind of basically again give you clues to how the movie's going to end. And like it's not in a way of like it doesn't telegraph anything, but I love like tonally it's kind of setting up some things. Like I think it's really clever. They don't fall into the trap. I've been ever since the marketing. I was hoping they weren't going to go in this direction. And again, in the end movie, they did. They still didn't go in the obvious direction I was afraid of, where it was going to be. My point is, they don't fall into the trap of it's Hiccup's destiny to be wrong. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase it. It's like Stoics. Think about this, okay? And the way this could have gone is you would have had a big whopping plot hole of Stoics telling his son, like, you're going to be the best dragon, you're going to kill dragons just like me one day. Obviously, that wouldn't play very well. Because we know it doesn't go that way. It would have been just like, yeah, I mean, it's him bonding with him, but over the thing, it really just did not turn out that way at all. And again, the way they circumvented that was okay. It's him talking about Hiccup's destiny to be chief one day, and talking about the hidden world. Like one day you'll go to the hidden world where we're going to go to the dragons. And they're not spelling out the whole to kill the dragons. We're not stressing that part of stuff. But the hidden world, it's like it's the manifest destiny quality of the Vikings, which I always loved in How to Train Your Dragon. They kind of downplay it a little bit in the first movie. They kind of kept. It was basically it's like a little theme that kept getting bigger each time. Think about it. First movie about finding the Red Death, the dragon island where the Red Death is, the big dragon they killed again. It's kind of finding, and they're Vikings on ships, so there's a little bit of manifest destiny there. And of course, Hiccup mapping out all the lands where he finds the dragons, and we globetrot a little bit. So there's more manifest destiny. And here, where there's again the hidden world in itself. It's a huge manifest destiny of it all. So again, I love how they wove that in there and kind of for a good plot reason. But we have this wonderful story being told by Stoke that kind of sells you on the mystique and builds up the splendor of the hidden world. So that's like dragons you've never seen before, like all that stuff. It's like it's planting the seed, but also Hiccup as a kid and seeing his father in a vulnerable state, as Hiccup in the movie becomes in a vulnerable state in himself, where he's you see like the scene that touched my heart, man, was Hiccup seeing his father cry over the loss of his wife.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. It just adds another dimension to that whole dynamic. And speaking of Witch Dragon, I feel like that character isn't in the movie much, but when she is there, it's either for for a good development or at least for a solid laugh. You know what I mean? So I feel like it is very appropriate to really add on to the extra dimension and to remind the audience why we really care about Hiccup's mother so much.
Absolutely, and also I love that it's like Hiccup right now. I think he's looking back to these flashes, to these flashbacks, to because again he himself is feeling vulnerable and he needs to really build up his confidence. And thinking to his father, I think that's again kind of building that up. So and of course there's the generational element, which definitely pays off by the ending, to say the least.
Mm.
All right,
Alrighty.
forget all the dour stoic stuff. Let's talk comedy, man. Let's talk
Okay,
comedy
so
gold. Comedy gold.
comedy tonight.
I'm thinking like Gallivant, like comedy gold. It's comedy gold. Okay, that was ridiculousness. Okay, let's overall talk about it. So we have some fun in this movie. You start us off.
Yeah, I do love my favorite running gag is probably all the stuff with Tough Nut and Hiccup, which is why I'm glad it's not TJ Miller. I can kind of sleep easy knowing that. I don't know, I love the whole idea of Tough Nut being this being trying to be this older brother, kind of like, figure to look up to, but just failing at it, and Hiccup kind of just being like, all right, I'm gonna go along with this because you're my friend.
Like Jason Mewes trying to be Kevin Smith. That's pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just adorable, man. And it's like, honestly, I feel like this is by far the twins' best movie. We get some great stuff with Rough Nut, especially when she's kidnapped, in the cage. We get this extended like 5-minute sequence of her. I assume it's all improv based.
Yeah, I think it's Kristen Wiig improvising like all get out. And by the way,
Yeah, and it's fantastic, Dragon.
okay, so by the way, okay, a couple things. Okay, first off, I think that the rough nuts scene is probably the funniest and it's probably the biggest laugh in the whole movie. I think it's the
I
funniest.
think I agree. Yeah, it's definitely the comedic high point.
I'm gonna put a pin in that because I want to just kind of
Okay.
all of these. I want to address this. So I think overall the comedy, it feels just they give you some context. I think it feels very in tune with what they've been building and very consistent with the show's comedy as well. So the idea is like, don't know, there was comedy in the first movie and the second movie as well, but even more so, in the first movie. And because again, they just kind of let the moments play as they play, which of course sometimes are funny, but for the most, they can be dramatic. Again, they get a little all over the place. And there were a lot of running gags throughout as you imagine it, like an 8-season long TV show. There's bound to be running gags and comedy and some fun stuff. And the twins definitely, this feels exactly how the twins are written in the show. It's like because the characters got to shine a lot more individually in the show. Like you get to know them a little bit more. It's like that's like these twins are hysterical. And this is like their A material. What we got in this movie is like, oh my goodness, this is all wonderful. If only Tough Nut had a chicken, but he had a pet chicken in the show. It was ridiculous. Anyway. But yeah, so the Tough Nut thing, real quick. I love the Tough Nut. The whole face. I don't know, Tiki. Only you and I are probably some of the few people are really going to appreciate this because you and I fixate on facial hair sometimes.
Yes,
we have a proclivity to fixate on facial hair sometimes. Where the whole Tough Nut can't grow a beard gag, where he
tries to use his hair to make it look like he has a beard.
He essentially has like a toupee for a beard, but basically just ties his hair like a beard, like he braids his long hair, and he braids it like a beard in front of his face, and he's basically trying to give him like the father and like trying to give him like the in-law talk, or like kind of like the father to the son about to get. Basically, tries to give him the talk, like the you're getting married talk. He's just trying to give him like the talk to get Hiccup ready, critique him all sorts of stuff for marriage. It's just it's classic twins humor where the twins always thought that they were superior to Hiccup, but they took orders from him for some reason. It's pretty much Phil and Lil meets Jason Mewes. That's pretty much the twins in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and one of those twins, just oddly enough, reminds me of Jennifer Carpenter. Always reminds me of Jennifer Carpenter. It's I don't know. It's Rough Nut. It constantly reminds me.
I could see that.
Okay. Anyway, point being, so we had some fun stuff with that, and of course, before we
get my Dream How to Train Your Dragons DreamWorks theatrical comes around, Jennifer Carpenter could play Rough Nut in the opening day ensemble cast.
Yeah, just for giggles, let's get Jason Mewes to play.
Oh God, yes. Oh, absolutely.
Can he sing? No idea. Do you want to find out? You bet I do. Okay. In all seriousness, so before
the guy's a Downton Abbey fan. He must have some sort of sophistication to him.
I'm sure he probably has an opera voice that we've never heard before because he's preoccupied. She's like, well, you know, I'm shooting the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which they are doing, by the way, the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. So so I haven't really dedicated time to my opera career, my stage career, more accurately. Anyway, so before we get to the Rough Nettles is a great thing, but I won't talk about Snotlout here. Let's talk about Snotlout and Eret, son of Eret.
Yes, yes.
So
I
again, this is what I'm talking about with the show thing.
I really like that this whole thing is carried over from part two, and it feels very natural. It feels like it's not a huge part of the movie, but it gives them something to do to round out their characters, and it's just a nice, fun sort of running gag, Dragon. And Snotlout in general, I feel like, is the character from this franchise that kind of got the short end of the stick in terms of development. But you know what? One of them had to do it, and at least he's good for some decent comic relief. So, you know, I'd say the twins came out looking a lot better in terms of like movie to movie progression. Snotlout, I feel like I like it, at the very least, I feel like maybe Snotlout got more screen time in How to Train Your Dragons 2, but I remember him more in the screen time he did get in 3, if that makes any sense.
So here's the thing. So Snotlout, basically the emphasis of the kind of the genesis of Snotlout is that Jonah Hill improvised a lot of funny lines for Snotlout that kind of stuck with people. Therefore, when they develop him more in the series and in the show, I mean, you know, in the film series and the show, you know, we kind of like toss the Jonah Hill for like kind of like, you know, put emphasis on a line that really doesn't need that much of a comedic emphasis, but kind of sells it even more. Well, like the example, I think Dean DeBlose, I think, loves the bit. It's either Chris Sanders or Dean DeBlose in the first movie. They loved the "I'm going to avenge your beautiful foot and your beautiful hand," where he adds "beautiful" onto the foot gag where he didn't need to. It's just like that's Jonah Hill just making it funnier. And the idea is Snotlout's kind of terrible. Basically, Snotlout is Barry Goldberg, Tiki. That's the best way I could phrase it. Like Snotlout is the guy who thinks he's great at everything, thinks he's the best at everything, thinks he's again like Barry. He's identical.
Yes,
Here's the
yes,
thing, because I've been watching because I've been watching the Goldbergs like crazy recently. It's just kind of jumped to me when I was seeing the movie. Like, oh my god, yeah.
Hey, what's up, world? I'm Barry.
Yep. That's the thing. So Snotlout is identical to Barry Goldberg in that, again, he thinks, and this throughout the show as well, like he's the guy always screwing things up, and he's just the idiot of the group. Where he thinks like he's the he's the top dog, he's the jock of the group. Like Hiccup looks up to me, surely he does. Like I'm the jock, I'm the also. He's just terrible at everything. Yes, he stinks. But you know, again, he grows on you. That's the idea. Like Snotlout, he's like the bully. He always bullies poor old fish legs, but you know, he gets his comeuppance constantly. His own dragon lights him on fire now and again. It's like, you know, it's like you know, sets his hat on fire or something. You know? Anyway, I think they honored that here, and what we did is we paired him against Eret. Now, I love that Eret, by the way, just to kind of call this out as well, that Donovan Martin points out that Jon Snow in a movie about dragons. Who would have thought? So yes, Jon Snow.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Jon Snow, otherwise known as Kit Harington. Kit Harington, you know, he provides the voice of Eret, son of Eret. And I got to tell you, Tiki, I love that. I like the Eret character. He doesn't do a lot, but you know, I like he's just a nice guy. You know,
it's the same thing with Hiccup's mother. It's like I feel like they give them just enough to do to justify them being in the movie and continuing on the arc. And this was never going to be their movie in the same way that How to Train Your Dragon 2 was their movie. But in terms of screen time economics, I'd say it works out quite well, and it's pretty fair all around.
And basically, the gag is that Snotlout wants to be Jon Snow, essentially. That's what he wants to be. He wants to be as cool as Eret. He thinks he's as cool as Eret, and he's very threatened by this, especially by the fact we have this ridiculous running gag at the start where this is hilarious. So Snotlout, he's trying to impress Hiccup's mom because basically, again, it's more of a proud. Basically, he wants Valka to be proud of your boy. Essentially, that's what it is. He wants to become kind of the new son-like figure, like, you know, be proud. He wants someone to be proud of him. And it's hilarious. It's just the fact. I'm sorry. What kills me about the reason it's hilarious is that I love how Valka is just like, oh well, you should do other things. Like, no, they basically like, no, this guy's terrible. Get him away from me. Get him away from me now. Like that just kills me. Just Valka letting him down easy and just trying to be really, you know, just be really nice about it. Just it's hilarious. Okay, Rough Nut and Grimmel. So yes, it's so this is what I'm talking about. This is the next level villain stuff I'm talking about, Tiki. I love that I love that Grimmel. We humanize our villain hilariously. We don't take anything away from the villain, but we actually we make a really hilarious scene, but we also add a little bit of menace to it. And that's the thing, we did that perfectly with this scene where Grimmel is just being, and this is the thing we'd see all the time, where sometimes the villains would capture the twins, and the twins just annoy them in the submission or do stuff like this. So Roughnut, again, with the added benefit of being Kirsten Wiig, just like going off like ever before, just like being the most annoying prisoner you could ever have, and we have this really great stoic guy just being annoyed the crap out of by Roughnut to the point where it's okay, just go. He opens the cell, gets her out of there. It's just, it's a very well edited sequence. But again, leads to a huge plot point. That's the thing I want to emphasize there. I love that it's a big plot point of Grimmel. Seemingly, Grimmel's just annoyed in the submission, but no, it's not just that. He was annoyed, very likely, but he channeled that and he got an idea. Like, okay, I'm going to let her go, and this woman is infuriatingly annoying and not that bright, so I'm going to track her. So basically, she leads, again, it's a huge plot point. She leads him to Burke. She leads him to New Burke.
Mm.
Great three-dimensional villain you have there. It's a great bit of writing of that whole sequence. So the comedy's smart as well. I think the comedy's on point this movie. So, all right.
Okay, so let's see. So the hidden role, Dragon, are we going to talk about just the animation in general? Help me out here.
Sorry, you mean you want? I'm sorry. What about the hidden world?
Literally under the outline, the next thing on the docket is just, it says hidden world.
Yeah, we talk about the hidden world. Like the location.
Okay.
When we go to the hidden world where all the dragons are kept, that place.
Gotcha. Okay. Honestly, Dragon, it was beautiful. It was the very detailed and everything. My only qualm with it was it felt like a little too similar to Valka's hideout from How to Train Your Dragons 2. Did you get a little bit of deja vu with that? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too picky with it.
I'll tell you what. I will say it's a little similar. It's a little similar, but again, I think visually they took it.
Visually, it definitely ups the game. I just think conceptually, it's not as different as I was hoping it would.
The difference is this, Tiki. The difference is you have the Bewildebeest in you have the biggest dragon you've ever seen. So that's the difference. Basically, it's a location. The idea is that whole location was built around the ice that dragon produced. So again, that's what that location was. So this thing is is the Mecca, is like the heaven that the dragons go to. Essentially, it's as Donovan kind of phrased it earlier. He kind of phrased it as like kind of a dragon heaven, which he is not wrong. And that's the cool thing about. Here's the thing that sold me instantly. One, with the animation, as well as when we roll up to the hidden world. One, I'm sorry, I'm jumping through a whole bunch. There's a lot of really great stuff here I want to unpack. So let me start with this. Okay, so story-wise, my favorite idea about the hidden world is that it's based on the old, the world is flat idea. The idea that the Vikings, again, it's a really great period idea where, okay, they think the world is flat, and basically the end of the world is the hidden world. Again, it's like if the world is flat, the end of the world is what leads you into the hidden world. That's a great idea. Again, it's hilarious, but it's really cool. And again, it's in that old world thinking, and it's really neat. But then again, so getting to the visual of it all, really I think differentiates it from 2. Is you have that water effect, to end all water effects, as you see kind of the giant, the giant waterfall that leads you down to the hidden world, just like the rock base and the cliffs, and never have I seen water that maybe, again, it sounds so ridiculous, but it's like, oh, look at that water. I think my friends and I were the only ones going oh, look at that water, man. It's like we would have been people look at this had lobsters.
No, Dragon. Just in animation in general, man, it's kind of like water is one of those things where animation studios just keep upping their game, and it's just I don't know, water at this point is just it looks so nice and refreshing and photorealistic. It's so good.
Yes, it is. Again, it's just honestly, that's the thing. That's the thing we didn't see in the trailers, because we saw a little bit of the hidden world in the trailers. But that's the one thing we didn't see, the lead up to there. It's oh my god, I'm so in how this works, man. I'm so in. But that alone is what I need. It's the entrance. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that entrance sold me so well. And then we go to the hidden world, and the cool thing about the hidden world is that it's It's we're transported to kind of where our world ends and a new one begins. So when we see this, we have this really awesome deep cliff dive into that waterfall to the subterranean world, the subterranean pocket world. It feels very Edgar Rice Burroughs-esque. Edgar Rice Burroughs in his writing, but I think specifically the Tarzan works. He had the whole there's a pit in. You saw this in the animated Tarzan show too, which is why it always comes to mind. There was, I think it was called Pangea. I think that's what they call it. The idea that there was a pocket in Africa where there's a pocket that leads to a world where the dinosaurs did not go extinct. It was a really cool, like, kind of next level. Again, it feels like a very Edgar Rice Burroughs idea. Like, what if there was like a hole that you can go down that would lead to like a world of dinosaurs that didn't go extinct, but the ones on the upper surface did? And that's essentially, and that's kind of what the idea is here. And I thought that was so cool. And the cool thing visually with it all, you got these stalagmites. Again, it feels very subterranean, but it's very space. It's like the most spacious subterranean thing you've ever seen. You have all these new patterns that come out from this bioluminescent kind of black light effect. It looks great. You have all these different new and different breeds of dragons. It's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm. For sure, for sure.
Yeah. Overall, anything else you want to add with the animation too? Like, I mean, I'm a gadget nut, so I love kind of the mechanisms and kind of the improvements upon mechanisms and evolution of that we had worked into the design work of the film. Where, Hiccup's made upgrades to the flight suits. He's made multiple flight suits. We have flight suits that are made of dragon scales, so they're fireproof. Like completely fireproof, and again, it's like this visual thing of it's man becoming dragon. It's like it's a very Da Vinci-like idea. It's like the old man with the flying machine. It's kind of they kind of took that idea and they made it even more like kind of organic. I think that was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's all they and basically on the whole too, just with the as we mentioned, because we haven't mentioned this at all. I think is that, so of course How to Train Your Dragon 2 was revolutionary was revolutionary and definitely had the best animation that any DreamWorks film had. That was kind of the big claim to fame that it was the best looking DreamWorks film ever made. And it would utilize motion capture. I don't know if it's the first time they used mocap, but it used mocap in a different way than it had before. It had texture, it had lighting, it had environment. And this movie overall, with all these elements that we've been talking about, in 3, it continues that, and it kind of goes the extra mile with the new stuff, with kind of the more subtle stuff. It's not in your face because we already got used to it, but I think it's kind of the divide between 2 and 3. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to think if Donovan had anything additional here. Yeah, the hidden world is symbolic, like a dragon heaven, but not taking the idea away if dragons ever lived or not.
Let's see. You know what, Dragon? It's taken me this long to name drop Don Bluth into the conversation, but I'm gonna do it now because screw it. The hidden world is almost kind of like the Great Valley in the sense that it's almost angelic and biblical, and at a certain point, maybe it did mean to represent dying, but the writers just kind of like dropped the idea, but there's still kind of like a biblical element to both of the locations.
Yeah, I kind of see that. And also there's a Brother Bear comparison here from Donovan Martin, that the song that played when they were going down to the hidden world felt a little Brother Bear-esque. And also you have kind of the visuals or there's a vague, it reminds you, remember when they did they play with the Aurora Borealis and Brother Bear a lot, you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's a little reminiscent of that too, but I think the song choice, I guess. Also, there's I guess there's something to look out for when it comes to DVD, Tiki, or streaming, or however someone watches this. Donovan claims there might have been 2 light furies in the hidden world. So again, that'll be very telling if there are more night furies out there. So again, it's something kind of freeze frame when you go back to the movie, or like be on the lookout for if you rewatch the movie. So yeah. Yes, there's a very biblical quality of things to complement your Don Bluthian point there, Tiki. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, we could spend all day talking about all the intricacies of the animation. We already talked about the fire effects in that opening sequence. Again, it's an amazing reintroduction of your characters, and it's the dead of night, like the fog. Oh my God, the fog, man, the fog.
Yes, holy crap.
Oh yes. Oh, my favorite. Okay. Oh my god. Sorry. Before we move on, I guess one thing I got to talk about and kick myself. We won't talk about
Okay,
this.
okay, go for it, go for it.
Okay, so one of the things that this movie won over major points with me, where again it didn't have to do this. This was like the cherry on top of things, man. I teased this up a little bit. There's a reference to the Christmas special in this movie, and I loved it too. The Gift of a Night Fury special that we covered on on Christmas in July way back when.
Hmm.
Uh, and again, essentially, it's like kind of the same, like all the stuff. Again, it's basically saying, "Hey, we acknowledge the all the additional stuff with the shorts and the show for a moment." We're basically, um, Hiccup makes a tail for Toothless with the whole mechanisms of it all. That's why it kind of brought me to it. Is that he puts a tail on Toothless that he can activate, that he can kind of work and kind of basically he can fly without Hiccup now if he needs to. And that tail again, he mentions that. Well, didn't you already try that? And yes, we know we already tried that. We know where that came from. He did that in the Christmas special. He built that for him, and now we're using it at the very end of the franchise. How cool is that?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So Hiccup and Toothless.
Yeah, let's talk about kind of the arc between these guys. Kind of it's a three-picture arc. Let's talk about it.
Okay. I, I I didn't realize we were getting into. Well, I guess I could talk about all.
I mean, overall, I'm just saying focus on the one in the movie. I'm just saying I figured like if you wanted to, you could. Just
Yeah. Right. Right.
So I mean, like overall, I mean, where this movie goes with them is like they're two. I love they're two loners in the grand scheme of things. Tiki, if you think about it, Hiccup and Toothless, where they start and where they end, it's like they're these two loners that found each other, and they're both in the they kind of both in the course of the first movie they lost a piece of themselves that they then recaptured by working together. Again, they both kind of have a mechanical piece of themselves that interlocks perfectly when they fly together.
Mm-hmm.
And in the second movie, is broadly like the one sense of it all here is that they both took big roles, like Hiccup as the
Well,
chief.
the second movie was all about kind of like testing their relationship in a way. You know what I mean?
It was because listen to mince words here. Toothless kills his father.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I mean, folks, I know it's not his fault,
Mind
but
control or whatever, but it happened in front of our own eyes, and it is Mufasa for the 2010s generation.
the most heartbreaking part of it all too is so Toothless is coerced into essentially killing Stoic, and then he again when Toothless snaps out of it, not knowing what just happened, he goes and curls up next to the dead body, which kind of sends Hiccup into like get out of here. That's a gutsy scene, man. Like wow. Still, it still holds up. Anyway,
yeah.
my point is at the end of that movie, Hiccup he becomes chief and Toothless becomes alpha. Again, they're reflecting each other yet again, and they're bonding as much as you can, two characters. Then we get to this movie. This movie, they're at a crossroads of where do they go from there. Like these two guys are closer than they could ever be before, but then of course we have a bit of a Yoko element with the Light Fury. But again, importantly, the Light Fury represents the what next quality. Like again, like the visual from earlier on. It's like okay, this can't last forever. I mean, it's fun. You got 8 seasons out of it, kid. But where are you going to go from there?
Mm-hmm.
He's I think Hiccup. They're both Hiccup and Toothless. They're both. I'm sorry. I keep. Did you want to get into it?
No. Go ahead.
So basically, I feel that you have these two leaders who, in different ways, they're both facilitating. They're both buddies. They're both buddies, but they're also kind of facilitating a harmonious relationship between Dragon and Man. Again, one in their friendship, but broadly in kind of what this represents, kind of a friendship that encapsulates all. And here, yeah,
like basically what this boils down to, Dragon. If I can get a little philosophical on you in terms of in my Red Bull failing to keep me awake phase right now. So basically, what I'm picturing from the 3 movie arc with Toothless, number 1 was basically a boy and his dog story, right?
Yeah.
Number 2, I feel like was a boy against the wild.
Yeah.
And then number 3, I feel like is the very humanistic, like like Toothless and Hiccup have gone beyond just pet or nature, or like they are friends, they are companions, they are simpatico with each other. And that is like part of the big growth of the franchise, and why the ending really hits you as hard as it does is just how close they've become, and just how and how much more naturalistic their communication is from movie to movie.
Absolutely, and I mean, I think what this movie gets to is that they had a very kind of harmonious dynamic. They're closer than they've ever been before, and I think I love story wise that Hiccup. You kind of, if you really look at the dynamic they have now, like it doesn't get any better than this. But then you have this realization that Hiccup and the audience makes, where the dynamic's kind of one sided now. Where whichever way you look at it, I mean, specifically if you look at it from Hiccup's point of view, and Hiccup comes to the realization in the movie that he doesn't quite need Toothless anymore. Like Hiccup's big arc in the movie is realizing he doesn't need Toothless to be special. Or like it's evolved past the boy and his dog story.
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially kind of the realization that he makes, that he doesn't need to. They don't need each other anymore. If he builds him that tail, he doesn't need him anymore. And again, it's a great physicalization of a great literalization of like, yeah, you guys technically don't need each other anymore. You just like being around each other, and and vice versa. Toothless, he's finding his own sense of self with the Light Fury. Again, he's finding there's more of his kind. He's kind of leading. He's the leader of the dragons, in being the alpha. And again, it's so. I love how it reflects where he and Hiccup met by the end. I really like that, how they kind of met each other by the end of things. How we kind of reflect how that journey's gone. How they both kind of find each other, and how they both kind of have realized they've kind of reached the end of their ropes to an extent.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, again, it's also kind of like a bit of the Wreck-It Ralph 2 message too, and I kind of liked it. I liked it a lot better here. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was fine in Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, Dragon. That's the thing. As time goes on, I feel like with Wreck-It Ralph 2, I admired it for what it was trying to do, in terms of being a message about like jealousy and whatnot. But I agree. I feel like it's handled a lot better in this one, and I feel like it the jealousy kind of like embodies Hiccup's dark side in some ways with this film.
Let me put it to you this way. I think Wreck-It Ralph, I disagree with you on one point to that, Tiki, where I think it's less about a dark side, it's more about kind of like a realization of he has a realization that he's putting his friends' need and independence before his own. Well, let me rephrase that. It's that it's that Hiccup, he's not putting his friends' need and independence before his own. I feel like I'm botching that somehow, but you get what I'm saying, though. I'm getting, the fact that he's kind of holding his friend back. He's holding Toothless back in return for what's servicing him, what he thinks he needs. Like he thinks like, I want Toothless in my life, therefore I can't let him go. And I love that we have these moments where he goes into the hidden world and he doesn't mean to encroach on Toothless. And this is the difference between this and Wreck-It Ralph. Ralph learns the hard way, where I think Hiccup knows the lesson, but he's just coming to grips with it, where he realizes that I respect that Toothless, he's left and he's going to do his own things there. I want him to be happy, but I'm not really happy, and I kind of need him in my life. But again, I literally need him so I can kind of stop the bad guy here. I don't know. There's a mutual respect there. I really liked. So
yeah, definitely.
Really mature and layered, again, for a film that could be very commercial, very kid friendly.
And that's that's one of the big things I've always respected about this franchise, Dragon. It's like, I'm not saying the movies are as good as Toy Story, but in some ways the themes and the development is almost like more impressive than Toy Story in some ways.
Let's say in different ways.
At least more ambitious, if not more impressive.
Let's just say different ways, but
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about another relationship that's kind of grown over the trilogy. Let's talk about Hiccup and Astrid.
I don't have a ton to say about this one, Dragon. They play wrestle for a period of time. And
okay, well, let me put it to you this way. Let's talk about Astrid as a whole with this. So, like, what do you feel about Astrid as a whole?
I don't have a ton to say about this one, Dragon. I'm sorry.
So much for that, Hope. I was like, let's broaden it a little bit. It's like, nope.
No, Astrid is just like, she's just kind of there. I don't think she's a problem character, but I don't think she's really a standout character either. I do like that she gets that she's kind of like the mediator between the Light Fury and Hiccup in this movie. That's pretty fun. But I don't know, man. Generally speaking, like if we're gonna get, I don't know.
Look, let me put it to you this way. All right,
I can't find anything wrong with her, right? It's hard to put it into words. I don't feel like they do enough. Like I feel like each movie it starts out with a scene where it's like, oh, isn't that cute? Like Astrid and Hiccup, they have such a good kind of like like Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone in the Spider-Man movies. Great chemistry, but by the same token, nothing's really done with them. I don't know. It bugs me.
let me put it to you this way. I feel How to Train Your Dragon 2 gave Astrid a lot more to do. Like, she was, again, they kind of did, Hiccup was doing the things with his mother, where, she was like, when he found her and we did all that story. It had A plot, B plot story. B plot was Astrid leading the gang and really reflected well on her. And of course, basically the rest of the stories were kind of led by her. And that was a really great showcase for her character. And they didn't really retread that this time around. But what they did, I liked what they did. Again, it's not really shining the relationship or anything. That doesn't necessarily have to. So I mean, there's no problem with that. But what I do like is Astrid. She has a fear of commitment. They do like the wedding stuff, where she's afraid of she's a little hesitant to get married. And what I love with this is that thanks to Volka, importantly, I like the dynamic she has with Volka. That's the thing I like that kind of comes out and that feeds into the Hiccup and Astrid thing, where Volka shows Astrid the importance of being the wife to the chief, where it's like you provide guidance and leadership and support. Where Hiccup definitely needs that this movie, where he helps Hiccup, she helps Hiccup realize that there's you're more than just the guy linked to Toothless. You can be effective without Toothless by your side, and just kind of honoring the friendship. You can honor that bond again. Hence the whole the end where they're all in the dragon flying suits. So again, I think they still have great chemistry. We don't do a lot. We don't see a lot of it as much as we did in the second movie, but it's there, and they have the banter, and they're clever, like mine. It's the age old thing. I've always been a fan of the relationship, and it's always kind of nice. It's always nice to see those two crazy kids get together. So and they kind of take it. They get married. How nice is that? It's all real
I
nice.
do like the fact that Rough Nut is obviously jealous of Astrid.
Yeah, and of course, like the round head gag, like that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's some fun there. And, Donovan Martin pointed out the Hicastrid shipping name, which I think that might be there are all sorts of shipping names. I forget they must call it Hicastrid, I guess. Anyway, what about the callback with her and Hiccup that was similar to the first one with doing something crazy? I'm just trying to. Yeah, well, I mean, I just kind of ordinarily does crazy stuff, and I don't know. I'm sorry. That was a good moment, I guess. I'm a little fuzzy on it at the moment. But hey, Tiki, did you get a chance to see the movie a second time yet?
Unfortunately, no, Dragon, and honestly, that's why believe it or not, I'm not really struggling to stay awake here. I just don't really have that much to say because I saw the movie before my trip, and it feels like it's like I don't have that much to say about it. So I wish that I had gotten a chance to see it again before we recorded it, because obviously I'm not on my A game this podcast, and I apologize for that.
Well, what I'm saying is like I haven't seen a second time either. I'm looking very forward to seeing it like next week. Don't be wrong. I mean,
yeah.
I'm saying some of these specific bits because I love the Ed thing. I always like that relationship. I'm sure like there's some bits I'm overlooking, so I feel a little guilty about that. But anyway,
the bits.
Donovan also echoes that he loves Vulcan. Yeah, Kate Blanchett was a blessing to this series, man. Like she elevated, man. I love that she gets into it. She does.
All right.
All right. So let's talk about. We're getting near the end here. Let's talk the climax. Basically, all the big. Let me set the stage here. So the stage is this. It's very simple. It's the odds are stacked against our heroes because Toothless. Essentially, the Light Fury is recaptured, and Grimmel is threatening to kill the Light Fury if Toothless doesn't use his alpha. He uses alpha kind of shtick to bring all the dragons to the ship. So so Toothless basically lures all the dragons onto the ships to be captured and everything. because he has to. He doesn't want the Light Fury to be killed. And but does it bother you we don't have a name on the Light Fury because I just keep saying Light Fury?
Yeah, I know it does kind of bother me as well.
Yeah.
We don't have a name for it, right? Like we never do get it
No.
like a toothless style name, so I don't know what else to call it.
They probably want to say Bright Eyes, but I think it's just really
Bright
lazy and
Eyes.
uncreative. Bright
Dragon, I
Eyes.
really that's the name of one of my favorite bands. Bright Eyes kind of Burst. Shout out.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not kidding.
Huh. What do you know? Small world. Okay, so the point is, all the dragons are on the ship right now, and basically all of our the new Burke, they're without dragons, and they're kind of like they're up a creek without a paddle, and they have to save their guys. And also, Grimmel has a fleet of warships at the ready, so that's not none of that's good news. So there's
Right.
the cliff notes here, and just talk about kind of the high of highs within this battle. We have a very exciting battle with all of them in wingsuits, and they're coming down there. It looks great. They're taking on an army, and they're very calculated. Like basically like the opening, but like for a whole sequence. It's like the opening for the big climax of the movie. It's all relative. Act one reflected in Act three, all good stuff there. So and I love how ships are going down, like they're steering ships into other ships. It's and then like they're freeing dragons all over the place. We have this bit where Toothless, while captured, he's like wriggling his way out of there, and he's like firing blast at Grimmel's, like he's like climbing the post like Captain Hook and Peter Pan. It's great.
Mm.
The mast, I guess, and like all that, like it's really great. It's wonderfully staged action, is what I'm getting at, and we get to the big, we get to the awesome saves. That's my favorite part of all the climax. We have the awesome save. I know you remember this part, the awesome save, where um, Toothless gets knocked out, and Hiccup basically mid glide. They're all going down. Toothless is falling as Hiccup is, and he basically again, we use Grimmel chemically controls the dragons to override the alpha, the alpha thing, the alpha male effect. So he removes that from the Light Fury, and she comes to, and Hiccup makes the big sacrificial play here, and I love this so much. Where Hiccup says, "Save him, save Toothless," and she goes down there and she saves him as he's free falling, and basically he's free falling while he's grappling with Grimmel, and Grimmel's like it's in slow. It looks great. Grimmel's like ripping the wingsuits. Basically, they're both plummeting to their doom, and there's nothing that's going to save them. And it's a great moment where then, for life me, and this thing I'm kicking myself for, I can't remember. I assume it's the Light Fury that saves him because I think Toothless is knocked out. But I mean, it could have been Toothless saving him. But the point is, he's saved by the Night Furies. They come in at the last minute, they save him, and again, the broad kind of come up and say, "But all here, it's so great that we are rewarding Hiccup's path over Grimmel." So we're saying, yes, Hiccup has chosen the right path. Hiccup. We reward Hiccup for embracing the dragons versus the guys just killing the dragons. Therefore, he falls to his demise. Basically, goes the way of Charles Muntz. Pretty much.
Mm. All right.
Yep, and also Donovan posted this question way earlier on. Says, "Wouldn't Grimmel be dead from falling from that height onto the water?" And well, yeah, I mean, he is dead. It's the question of, I think he's asking, like, does the fall kill you or what? So. Also, John, yeah, Donovan's. I can't believe we haven't talked about this. Don Martin pointed out that John Powell's theme in that moment, where he catches him, is it's Jesus Christ, I got chills. That's what he writes there. So I mean, yes, I absolutely, it's great. John Powell scored. You gotta remember John Powell, the original, the guy who did the original Shrek score. I mean, John Powell does tremendous work. It's great seeing him.
Yeah, I feel like he's one of DreamWorks' secret weapons. I really do, especially when they put him on a franchise like this. He's because the thing with John Powell Dragon is that he's not one of those composers that likes to repeat himself. You know what I mean? Like each song that he points out in some ways is very very naturalistic. I'm speaking to someone who just bought my but I'm sorry I'm
right.
sorry.
Anyway, so yes, Donovan agrees. Yes, John Powell is quite amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk the ending, man. We got to talk the ending.
Yeah, it's just it definitely just kind of sticks to landing and really delivers a solid, like, all right, that's it. That's that's what I wanted to see, and I hope they don't mess it up. I hope we don't get any more sequels. I don't know. It's just there's something very, very mythic about it, Dragon.
Perfect word choice. So let's build it up a little here. So I love that with the ending, Hiccup, he makes the realization that he can't bring Burke to the hidden world. It's just that, more people are going to come, and it's like we're bringing in a foreign element into like their natural setting. It's not right. So this kind of leads to the parting of ways until one day in the future where hopefully the two can coexist. So it's kind of united under a dream, which is really nice and optimistic.
Mm.
And and basically, Hiccup again, the whole like the boy and his dog story. Hiccup becomes a man. He gets married to Astrid. It's a lovely ceremony, by the way, very Lord of the Rings esque. And I know nothing about Lord of the Rings. Just it feels that way. I mean, am I anywhere close? It doesn't feel Lord of the Rings esque with the wedding.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. I could see that. I
I feel
mean,
like
honestly, the whole thing feels very Lord of the Rings-esque because with Lord of the Rings, the ending does have a similar kind of like mysterious sort of biblical kind of thing happening on a boat.
yeah. All right, so folks, buckle and get your inside out tissues here, because then, of course, years later, Hiccup sailing in a boat, and we reveal Hiccup with a beard like his father. He's a true Viking now. He's got a beard, which of course drove everyone crazy in the market. Like, where's the beard? Where's the beard? So we see Hiccup with the beard with Astrid, and this is the thing that got me all choked up in the theaters. Like, oh my god, this is beautiful. Where he's got two kids. Like this blonde boy, and
Yeah,
he's got
yeah.
the little girl, and it's like, oh my god, it's so cute. And I thought it was delightful. I'm sure the shippers were having a field day. Oh my god, they had kids, yes. And it's like, of course, they got married. Therefore, there's no more shipping in the equation, like the relationship. It's there, and they had kids. Like people do fan art, like relationships with kids and like mythical, like what ifs and all that sort of stuff. I'm sure people got a real kick out of it. But seriously, it's just the sweet. I don't know, it's just something infectious about like, oh, ain't that cute. They're sailing to the hidden world entrance. This is where he really got me choked up. He's like, "Oh my god, we're at that hidden world entrance again!" And then Toothless kind of goes out there to greet what he thinks is an intruder from a distance. He goes onto the boat. And we have this perfectly played moment where Toothless, we see if Toothless is going to recognize him, and of course he does, and we recreate them where he recognizes Hiccup after a moment, and we have the line that kills me. This is like my favorite Astrid line in the whole movie. She says like, no, he's not going to eat your father. See, he's not going to eat your father. That's a great. It's such a great infectious scene. It's the reunion between the two of them, and then of course we kind of we pass the torch. It's the next generation of dragon riders where he places the kid's hands on Toothless. It's so full circle, recreates the big bonding moment between dragon and man. It's the next generation, and they're going for the fly. He's flying up there with his son and passing on. We see baby Night Furies, man. How much cuter does it get?
Yeah, yeah.
And essentially, what happens is we have the narration where we link up, and essentially, what's doing here is we link up with the past tense of the opening of the series, where it's always Hiccup talking the past tense, and we kind of, in essence, and if I'm not, as long as I'm not reading it wrong here, we explain that this is pretty much how the book ends. By the way, from what I understood, Krista Cowell, she ends the books with the dragons went away, and that's pretty much how this ends too, where essentially it's acknowledged that the dragons went away. It's implied that the dragons aren't in the history books because again, this is like, sorry, let me rephrase that. To my understanding of it, Tiki, is that dragons aren't in the history books, but we today we don't know what dragons are because it was such an amazing story. They kind of they went to the hidden world, which is like only the Vikings way back when know about, but that's why we don't know it today. I think it's what they were going for. That sound about right to you?
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
Yeah, and as Donovan's saying here, the dragons don't deserve us yet. Which again,
Uh-huh.
I think it's very much the point. As the hero, they're the awesome pets we need right now, but we don't deserve them.
I think that just about sums it up, Dragon.
Pretty much. So the point is, it's a beautiful full circle, perfect ending. I mean, I don't know how many other ways to slice it, and I'll just read a few more Donovan Martin things here before we just kind of bring it home with final thoughts.
Okay.
We'll mix trilogy with final thoughts, by the way.
Okay.
Um, uh, Can't believe he has cute children and Toothless and the Light Fury have those. Oh my God, it's so cute. Nightling. Oh no, sorry. I was going to say Nightlings, but it's not Nightlings. It's Nightlights, which is still kind of cute. Like, oh my God, they're Nightlights, Tiki. Nightlights. All right. Well, I thought it was kind of cute. Anyway.
I hear you. I hear you. I'm just.
Okay. So let's bring it home. So, any like final thoughts on the trilogy as well as the movie?
Yeah, I just I don't know. I feel like the trilogy is very much DreamWorks' masterpiece. I just wish that the release schedule wasn't so kind of wonky, and I don't blame the movie at all. I don't judge the movie at all for that. I just like I said, Dragon, I would have been more on point with this conversation had the movie itself been more fresh in my mind. And I don't know. I don't have a ton to say about it. It's not the greatest of the trilogy. I will say that much. I will say that, like, we were kind of having this discussion during our no spoilers podcast, where I would kind of rank it as number 3 out of 3, but that's not saying that's not a bad thing at all, because it's still a very, 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 very good movie. It's a great movie. So, I'm just saying that number 1 and number 2 are just a little bit above it. So that's kind of like how I feel about the trilogy as a whole. It's good enough. I think that the Return of the Jedi comparison is really adequate, by the way. I feel like that's, now that I think about it, because Return of the Jedi, as you said, it's like, it's a movie that a lot of people love, but even the people that love it acknowledge some of the little silly flaws in it. And I feel like that's going to be sort of the same way with this movie. But at any rate, Dragon, this is it's a beautiful franchise. It's just like, all the world building, all the technology that went into it. The characters I don't think this is going to be a movie franchise that's really built on the characters. I do think it's going to be built on kind of like more the sheer emotions and the animation and the world building, but so be it. And another thing I wanted to get out there, Dragon, just before we sign out, this is one of the things that I do feel strongly about with this movie. I feel like this movie is paced very well in that it actually gives you time to breathe in between things. You know what I mean? Like we have scenes that will just go on for a good 5-6 minutes or so. And I do feel like that's a throwback to like how, pre-Batman and Robin and stuff like that, kids movies did have this to it that I don't know why I cited Batman and Robin, but kids movies had this pace to it back in the day where we would just kind of it would be a little bit more leisurely. It wouldn't be more bam, 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 like joke all the time. And oddly enough, Dragon, just to kind of loop it back and do a parallel on itself, Shrek is maybe the movie that kind of like jump started the whole like, all right, we've got to have jokes. We have to have jokes. We have to have comedy. And even with the MCU, as much as we love the MCU, Dragon, as you know, one of my criticisms with the MCU is the fact that sometimes the comedy can be a little bit too tongue-in-cheek, and it doesn't really take the situation itself seriously. And I feel like this is a near perfect movie in regards to the tone and keeping the tone and the pace on point within the universe. We never really feel outside of it. It's just a very, very, very good, very digestible film that just happens to be attached to 2 films that are, slightly more groundbreaking than it. So, altogether, like I said, the trilogy is basically the DreamWorks masterpiece.
Right. So I guess for me, he took the boy and the dog story, and turned it into an epic trilogy. I mean, that's a really impressive kind of claim to fame. I think this trilogy has. It kind of took a story we've kind of seen, been there, done it. You look at it and say, oh, okay, it's one of those stories. But no, it has much more. It involves a lot of change and evolution in life within this grand sweeping story. It's you have this great moral about seeking peace. I mean, think about the moral of the idea of the concept overall. T. It's about seeking peace over seeking a fight. which leads to a really cool outcome. Where again, it leads to a cool outcome where you have dragons in your world, and it's about like you have some loyal allies in the process of kind of not seeking a fight, like not let's just kill them. Like why do we not do that for a change? Let's not let's not just out of fear, panic, or self-preservation, let's not try to kill something.
Mm-hmm.
And it always, I think the series had always remained consistent, solid, entertaining, and improved upon each installment. And I'm not saying like again, I agree the third one's not the best in the franchise, but again, that's like they're all none of them are at all bad in the slightest. They're all great, but I agree with you. Just the first two are a little bit more groundbreaking. That first movie, just in terms of story and just concepts, like yeah. DreamWorks for a win for a change. Nice. And then, of course, you get the middle one, which is like groundbreaking in terms of the technology and everything. The third one is kind of a mixture of the two. And again, it's solid.
And then the second one is also, I feel, groundbreaking because of just the sheer, that one big scene in the second one that really just puts it above anything else in the DreamWorks canon almost, I think. Just like one scene and two just kind of elevates the whole thing and makes it more... that one scene just is like the most memorable thing in the whole franchise, I think.
Certainly. And again, with the third movie specifically, it's an excellent ending to the series. It's a little straightforward, but that's not a problem. Again, that's the thing I take against it. That's kind of that's basically the main plot hole I think you're referring to, because it's a little straightforward. It's a little like, okay, we're just kind of going from this to that. But again, it's not a problem, really. It's just, it's... maybe again, it's not standing out as much as the other two, but it's basically gets to the end point. But again, it's the third in a trilogy. There's only so much you can do to combat that at the end of the day. I think it's an improvement upon the villain from the second movie, and that's the thing that kind of jumps out to me a lot with this movie. In the end of the day, it stayed true to the franchise. Again, may not eclipse the heights and the impact of the first two, but it's a very fitting end. And before we go here, I was looking at the comments final time here from Don Martin. He says this trilogy will live in infinity, and that's a good way of putting it. Some could say to infinity and beyond, but that's just some people. He questions to you. You probably want to field this one. Do you guys have a social?
We're working on it. I think probably for us the best avenue to do a social would be Twitter. I just really don't know how to run a Twitter, so really, it's just kind of a matter of, as soon as I get the stuff on SoundCloud, like I said, Dragon, when I announced the expanding outside of YouTube, I'm kind of like going to be a process in phases. So as soon as we get the podcast in other spaces besides YouTube, I feel like that would be the time to expand into social media. So the answer is yes, it's on its way, but it's not quite done cooking yet.
Yeah, so it's work in progress. And just to call it out, Donovan. Yeah, we've seen you've been asking that. And don't get me wrong, I swear to you, we've been working on it ever since ever since we saw that. So it's lit a fire, man. We're working on it. Don't worry, it'll be done as soon as we can. But again, like I can't promise it'll be tomorrow. We are working on. We'll make an announcement. We'll be the first to know, et cetera, et cetera. We'll be plugging as we plug many other things. So yeah, and also, just the last comment here is also last thing. I love how each movie ends with the flying into the sun, and yeah, it is always it ends with flying and just kind of a happy-go-lucky kind of flying moment. So that is quite nice. All right,
fair enough. Okay, folks, thanks for joining us. Like I said, I feel like I would have been able to contribute better to this conversation had the gap in my time viewing this not been so extreme. Dragon, I know that's not a good excuse because you've only seen it once, literally the same. But what can I say? You're a better podcaster than me, Dragon. I think this kind of made that clear. But at any rate, thank you, Donovan, for joining us. Donovan, and I really appreciate all the comments. And just let's see, Dragon. We'll be talking about this again. We'll kind of go over like another initial final thoughts in terms of kind of putting the last word out on this movie during our movie memoirs. Do you want to plug that really quick?
Sure. So if you want to see us specifically talk about this movie again, movie memoirs, which we're doing, I guess a few days from now, basically by the end of the week, if everything goes right. Mm-hmm. We'll be, movie memoirs is this thing we're doing. Where basically we kind of, it's kind of a movie discussion show, kind of a long form sort of podcast where we kind of cover the current stuff that we've seen, the stuff that came out within the month of February. So basically, at the beginning of the new month, or like towards the beginning of the new month. So at the beginning of March, we're going to be talking about all the stuff we saw in February, both the current stuff and then like the stuff that we haven't seen before. And kind of talk about some movie news as well. Like in this case, we'll be talking about the Oscars because that's kind of very topical. And usually, like if there's like a big trailer or something, it's kind of in general, that's kind of what to expect. So yeah, so look forward to that. I've watched a number of things. Tiki has as well. So yeah, it'll be some scintillating discussion. I know. So if you're a movie fan, by all means, check it out. And again, in general, for How to Train Your Dragons, I'm not going to make any promises, but one of these days, we might do an overview. I can't promise any soon because there's 8 seasons of a TV show, so I can't promise it's going to be anytime soon. So for Tiki to get caught up on that one. So if you want to see more How to Train Your Dragons, never know. Okay.
All right, thanks for joining us, folks, and I will see you later.
Night lights.
Yes, night lights indeed. All right.